Hello everyone. China selects XRP, XLM, and Quant. Smash that like if you haven't done so already. Let's get into the material and connect it all together with some recent developments and key discoveries in this outline. First, we're going to take you over to some of the things I found, and that is this. As I was looking up some key discoveries, research in regards to Quant, I saw this thing from UK Finance, and it really caught my attention to say the least. So it talks about this person who is head of payouts, World Pay, John McNaught, with responsibility for strategic product management. Now, he punctuated the 2-year stint, like it says, and then he was also with World Pay since 2014. And it says at NIUM, John was part of a core leadership team, leading sales, product strategy, on and on in regards to banking at Barclays, so on and so forth. Now, check this out. If you go to his LinkedIn, it talks about how roughly 3 years ago, he was excited about this new role of a newly formed crypto product team. All right, I get it. That's 3 years ago, but check this out. Going further into this a little bit more, he references this guy, Nabil Manji, and talks about the whole thing of that team over at WorldPay and the FIS. Now, I have cited FIS in regards to Quant a while back and that possibility, right? But again, fintech growth, financial partnerships, you get the gist. Let's check this out. If you were to look up NIUM, again, I don't know the exact pronunciation. That's not the point. But it was announced way back when, like a couple years ago, right? That they had some acquisitions. But it's the key discovery in regards to the announcement of real-time payments in Malaysia and how NIUM processes more than 80% of transactions worldwide in real time. That's huge. Now, some of you guys are aware of the whole thing of NIUM being partnered with Stellar. That's also a big deal as well to enable payouts to 190 countries. But look at this for a moment. It's the whole idea that NIUM in the US, well, their customers leverage crypto to fiat payment solutions. So again, this whole thing on 80% of transactions worldwide, my goodness, some people stated that, there's no way that Stellar or Ripple could do that amount of payments or that huge a percentage. Well, this seems to be a real thing, and I'll get more into the Ripple outline later. But check this out. Take you over to NIUM.com, and I want you guys to see this. Real-time money movement made possible. Move money around the world from APAC to Latin America. And again, when we get into the Quant coverage, you'll see a little bit more about LACchain. But again, from EMEA to North America, it's this network settled in real time. And again, direct bank relationships enable nearly all transactions on the NIUM network. Now, is there any tie to NIUM, tomato, whatever you want to call it, to something like Quant? This gets really interesting. My answer and my discovery is yes, and I'll show you proof. So emphasis is on this company called Deel, and like it says, some key things. NIUM was the most global service on the market and is complemented by Deel's global presence and customer base. Again, this is a customer. All right, so if this is a customer, where are we going with this, Max? Well, check this out. Deel was founded 5 years ago. It's an American payroll and outsourcing company based in San Francisco, California. Company provides hiring, payments, outsourcing services for companies hiring international employees and, of course, contractors. Now, get this. Are you aware they've been around, again, for a while, but MIT connections, Y Combinator connections? Remember we talked about Y Combinator in the past? Andreessen Horowitz, shout out to Rue Black. And look at this for a second. The whole thing of where, they come from and the seed rounds. So even U.S. Navy SEALs behind it. I mean, pretty crazy stuff, right? But here's the key thing. As I jump more further into this, I went back over to NIUM.com. case studies, Aspire, fast tracking finance, for example. And you see here some things that just, again, for me, says, is there a possibility in regards to Quant? Well, you guys know me, I do these things. So API, go from idea to implementation quickly using bank-grade APIs. Then there's a whole thing of connect via Swift, initiate Swift transactions through NIUM's network. All right, Swift, interesting. Covered Swift in the past. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because when we talk about things like the wallets and so on, well, we covered the whole thing of the overwallet not that long ago. And also there's things like, receiving funds in 35 countries via, bank transfers, cards, and wallets. Payouts, send money on demand. I mean, if anything, on demand liquidity. I mean, I'm just saying. To 220 plus countries, 100 plus in real time, and so on and so forth. All right, that's cool. All right. Where are you going with it, Max? Here's where I'm going with it. This is crazy. Boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. Make integration with Deel to the overledger. So this thing of Deel already talks, of course, to NIUM. So if Deel is a customer, it's like it kind of makes you wonder when they talk about the API integration, if behind the scenes, and again, I don't have confirmation on that, but behind the scenes, if Quant actually did the API infrastructure for that, makes you wonder. But at least there's this. And there is this whole thing of Quant talking to Deel, which, as we know, is a customer under NIUM. And like you see, I wrote this, put it together for you. Deel make an API call to the overledger to prepare a smart contract transaction. Then Deel makes a record of that. Then it kicks it over to the overledger to read from a smart contract. Then it kicks over to Deel to update a record, and then back to the overledger to sign a transaction. Wow, my goodness. All right, what about the Stellar side of things? Well, in regards to that, from a press release a while back, NIUM and Stellar Development Foundation partnered to enable payouts in 190 countries. And like you see here, 100 of that is in real time. Funds can be received in 35 markets, including Southeast Asia, UK, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, India, and the United States. NIUM's growing card issuance business is already available in 34 countries, including Europe SEPA. Now, SEPA, as we know, has a Quant connection, and we'll talk a little bit more about that just in case you are new to this. But it mentions the UK, Australia, and Singapore. Again, Australia, I mean, come on, screams Quant because standard of ISO TC 307. NIUM holds regulatory licenses and authorizations in over 40 countries, enabling seamless global payments and rapid integration, regardless of geography. Now, the hardcore Stellar fanatics are going to be like, well, that part's old news. I get that. But again, the discoveries of things that you're not aware of, especially with the whole make integration with Deel, Quant, with Overledger, you get the gist. Jumping more into this, what about the talk of China? Okay, let's take you over to techinesia.com/stellar Asia growth. Look at this quote from Joyce Kim. Most of our Asian user base is in Southeast Asia, but the biggest trading volume is from East Asia, China, and Japan. Joyce Kim, executive director of the nonprofit Stellar Development Foundation, tells Tech in Asia, in total, Stellar has about 3 million registered accounts, with just over half of them based in Asia. It's a natural but still heartening development for Kim. She sees Stellar as a powerful tool for enabling individuals who have limited financial literacy or access to financial institutions. And look at this quote. Financial services are a keystone right, enabler, or blocker, depending on where you are in the world. In Stellar strongholds, I love that stronghold, shout out to the stronghold community, right? Like Indonesia, where just 51% of the population have a bank account, it's not surprising that survey shows up to 82% of people want more payment options. All right, especially with the whole thing of NIUM being that plug to over 80% of the world. All right, how about this? Shout out to Mr. Man. I'll definitely tag him in reference to the research. He says, fight all you want, but a portion of the BRICS digital currency management system utilizes Stellar XLM for CBDCs, stablecoins, compliance by design, AML, KYC for infrastructure, the base layer. As we zoom in on this, what do you see here? you see the importance of interoperability in CBDCs. How so? It's because central banks have been experimenting with several transaction networks for the CBDC offering, including, and again, Hyperledger Fabric. We know how Hyperledger is in a lot of different things, right? But again, when it comes to Quant, they really do stand out. And of course, some other ones they stand out. But for me, especially Quant. All right. What about R3 Corda? Well, of course. What about the whole thing of Stellar? You see that. But what about the one that says unknown? People's Bank of China. We're going to get more into why that is, in my opinion, worth pointing out. Because when I take you over to here, you will see it's a citation from pandalay.com. 9 Chinese provinces issuance of blockchain guidance. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has stated that China's Electronic Technology Standardization Institute is the nation's authority on ISO TC 307, the Quant network standard. 14 companies participating in drafting the standard, including Wanzhang, Blockchain, Ant Financial, WeBank, and Yanyu. Back in June of 2017, the 13th five-year plan on China's financial information technology, released by the PBoC, which is the People's Bank of China, by the way, proposed to strengthen the development of basic blockchain technology and its application in the finance field. And it gets into the whole gist of, where they went with blockchain and implementation of the banking system, et cetera, et cetera. I'll get more into that later on. Shout out to Tokenizer, because he mentioned a while back that speaking of state-backed entities, Quant also partnered with Zhangzhou Huaxin Blockchain Research Institute, at least back in 2018. And that was the first state-owned research hub dedicated to exploring blockchain for the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. As we get further into this, is there anything about Quant and the Chinese? There is. If you go to nen.nl, from this PDF about webinar blockchain interoperability, what do you see? Mention literally from Quant. China creates blockchain coalition China Ledger Union. The country's blockchain industry organizes distributed ledger-based coalition in Beijing, supported by Chinese National Assembly and aiming to standardize the application of blockchain, at least reported back in 2016. And what else do we have? Well, if you go to square.htx.com, they focus on this area. It's an alliance located in China's Silicon Valley. China Ledger Alliance is formed by 11 exchanges. Financial Blockchain Shenzhen Consortium, formed by 25 financial institutions, which does include the Russia Blockchain Alliance, known as Russian R3. Russian R3? How many times have we done outlines in regards to R3 Corda, Quant, XDC Corda Bridge, you name it. Taking you over to this next part from the NASDAQ, it's this article. China Ledger will actively investigate and develop unique DLT-based platforms and technologies that can be applicable to other industries, of course, in China. In the beginning, China Ledger aims to engage itself in the capital market by introducing a settlement coin. And listen to this, everybody. It's pegged to fiat currency. That's crazy, because there's been a lot of talk about RLUSD lately in the news. Of course, Stellar always stands out with Circle USDC. But pegged to fiat currency? It says over time it hopes to detach itself from fiat and work independently. Who is being detached from the crypto world, if you will? Delistings, a Tether. I know that's a different example, but this really blew me away. Processing 100,000 transactions in 1 second, demonstrating a large daily volume of, basically speaking, 80 million data points or transactions. And this is Chinese? That's a big move, or a big thing to get into or point out. Getting more into this, what about what Yahoo has? From Bloomberg, actually. People's Bank of China injects 111 billion of liquidity as bond supply surges. And you can kind of see how that worked all the way to present. All right. What else do we have to reference? Well, here's what's important. How many times did we cover Stellar and bonds? Stellar references tokenized investment assets, but more importantly, how to tokenize investment assets that will work. Tokenized investment assets include securities and commodities such as money, market funds, ETFs, bonds, gold, and more can all be issued, of course, on the Stellar network. I pointed that out in the past. Many other people have as well. All right. What about something a little bit more recent? Well, September 11th, just a few months ago, cited from CoinGate.com, China's digital yuan surpasses 1 trillion in transactions and eclipses USDC and even Tether. China's digital yuan has shown amazing growth with transactions volumes surpassing that 1 trillion. And let's take you to the next part of that article. Stablecoins could boost yuan's global reach, says Circle. China has banned centralized cryptocurrencies. It has been actively developed, promoting its digital yuan, a central bank digital currency. So where did China go from here? Well, if anything, they might have done a ban in the past, but it seems as though they're coming back into fruition. Look at this citation from Canvas Business Model. Central bank digital currencies may impact dynamics. As of 2023, several countries are exploring or piloting CBDCs. The BIS reports that around 90% of central banks worldwide are researching and experimenting with CBDCs. True. But does it mention anything about Quant? It does. It says, while there are efforts, only 32 countries have engaged in cross-border blockchain technology projects. The ISO TC 307 Quant Network Standard Committee, established in 2016, focuses on developing blockchain ledger technologies. My goodness. As we get further into, I want to take you over to Business Times. Why? Well, Business Times has this highlight. Again, I'm giving you a lot of highlights. I don't want to make this 2 hours. The injection would help erase, or ease, I should say, funding pressure in the markets after China kicked off a U.S. $1.4 trillion program to help local governments cope with their off-balance sheet debt by allowing them to sell more bonds. That means banks, the main investors in these securities, would need more cash to absorb the higher debt supply and at the same time keep lending to consumers and businesses. And check this out. On a basic search, I talked about People's Bank of China. Well, they, in fact, use ISO 222 as a message format for its CNAPS 2 program. It doesn't say that, but I'll show you about the CNAPS 2. And that supports multiple languages, including Chinese and English. So we know about ISO 222, and we know about which cryptocurrencies are attached to that. But check this out. So take you over to fastpayments.worldbank.org. This pops up on his PowerPoint presentation. This is page 8 of 29. Says it was launched in August 2010 as part of the second generation of China National Advanced Payment System, CNAPS 2, by the People's Bank of China. You see that banking institutions have reserve accounts, of course, with the People's Bank of China. But banking institutions with or without central bank accounts can become indirect participants of IBPS. Now think about that for a moment. As we get further into it, these are dependent or direct participants to fulfill settlement obligations. And it talks about how there's key features. And look what it says. Real-time payments, 24/7, 365, and of course ISO 222. IBPS currently supports ISO 222 messaging standard and supports multiple use cases. That includes bill payments, recurring payments, credit cards, repayment, loans, you get the gist. So take you to the next part of this, back to the whole thing of CNAPS 2. Like it says, it's a second generation payment system that allows for real-time online transactions in China. Operates, of course, 24/7 and developed by the People's Bank of China. Interesting. All right. How about this? They have a code that's used by remitting banks to transfer funds directly to the recipient's bank account. So that's interesting as well, because let's face it, without remittances. All right. I discovered this and I saw that some other researchers are covering it. That's fine. Fastpayments.worldbank.org. Why bring it to you? Well, it's fast with 2 T's. And if anything, this symbol of the T kind of looks like something from Japan or China. But where the case be, frictionless. Think about the terminology. Affordable, safe, timely transactions. And here's your aha moment. Fast payments, known as instant real-time, immediate, or rapid payments, across payment service providers allows for immediate fund availability. Beneficiaries can also be used on a 24/7, 365 basis. But when you get further down in regards to cross-border payments, it talks about overlay services. Now think about that. Would that be maybe XRP with the interledger protocol? That's an overlay. Would it be Quant with the overledger? Literally says it in the name, overlay. Draw your own conclusion. But what's interesting is when you get further down, it says that Fastt, again with 2 T's, is a new milestone in the critical work supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and their umbrella program of finance for development. Now I get it, a lot of people are not big fans of them, and rightfully so, but worth pointing out. As I take you to this next key area, I've pointed this out before in the past, and I got to point it out again. It is blockchain communication ordering this particular patent from Quant. Like it says, inventor. And when you click on that interpretation, well, if you were to take that and copy and paste it, and I shared this before, it mentions Gilbert Verdin and some other people, I think maybe Paulo Tasca from HBAR/Quant. But current assignee is Fastnet Network Limited. And you see the worldwide applications. And it says, for example, the applications that date back to 2018. But again, China. All right. Taking this next part. Again, the terminology. If you go to fastpayments.worldbank.org, you see from Championing Handbook of August, it talks about the whole thing of working groups that was created with specific focus on overlay services. If you're not aware of it, the Central Bank of Turkey references some of this about how an additional working group was created in the specific focus of overlay services, but the need to coordinate efforts and deploy an FPS, which is a fast payment service, by the way, without the lead of the central bank. All right. If it's not the lead of the central bank, that means maybe a middleman, a middleware. Think about it for a second. Because as I take you over to here, I want to point out something to you guys, just in case you don't think that Turkey is an ISO TC 307 Quant network participant. And boil it, mash it, stick in the stew, Turkey definitely is. As I take you more into this, what do we have from fastpayments.worldbank.org? Well, remember how we mentioned SEPA earlier? Well, from this PDF of Fast Payment Flagship from November, it cites the European Union. And what about the whole thing of SEPA? Well, SEPA, Instant Credit, adopted ISO 222 as its adopted widely throughout the European Union and adopted, of course, for SEPA credit transfers and direct debits. It's worldwide and therefore provides easier integration with other fast payment arrangements for cross-border payments. All right, right below that, you see a reference to Hong Kong and China, and again about the whole thing of ISO 222 for fast payment system services. All right. I did mention SEPA. Check this out. This is from Ledger Insights. Great source for references. As you see, IDB-backed LACchain, a lot of you guys already know about this, tokenizes city payments, partners with the Overledger. That was from April 8, 2021. Just in case there's some people still don't believe that there's any Quant connection, especially with Citi and LACchain. All right. Look what it says in regards to specifically SEPA. It says here that you have Quant client is SIA, the secure private network infrastructure used by European banking sector for SEPA payments and more. It has its SIA chain blockchain infrastructure with which Overledger, again through Quant, has been integrated. Again, just trying to pound that home, just in case you didn't know about that. All right, taking you more into this whole thing of Project Fastt, new milestone, right? Well, I want you guys to put some focus back on the whole thing of frictionless, affordable, safe, timely transactions. Again, it's all about the terminology, right? Well, if we go over to Quant Network, they point out that blockchain in 2024 is the year of institutional adoption. Well, what about when we go into 2025? Because this year's almost literally over within a few days. Happy New Year, by the way. Well, what do you see? Gilbert Verdin talks about the need for interoperability. There will be a real emphasis on cross-chain compatibility to allow for frictionless asset transfers between different networks. And he points out how we saw like all these bad things that happened in the past. But again, back to the terminology. Why point it out? And here's your aha moment. From Quant Network in regards to SEPA instant payments and why banks need to act now. It's because all PSPs, and if you're wondering what that stands for, payment service providers in the Eurozone, will be required to enable their clients to do what? Receive SEPA instant payments by the 9th of January 2025. That's literally like in a couple weeks. And send SEPA instant payments by October 9th, 2025, because the instant payments legislative proposal is designed to make transfers faster, more secure, and affordable. It is a significant step towards creating a more streamlined and efficient payment system that benefits both businesses and, of course, consumers. All right, I did promise you guys the whole thing of Ripple. Shout out to our brother Smoke. I discovered this after I was researching more about the whole thing of the Fastt project, okay? So Smoke, you know, he does it great, man. I mean, I have nothing but respect for this brother. He says, Gates Foundation Ripple. Look at this. This is interesting. Gates Foundation partnering with Ripple Labs and digital payments firm Coil to implement the Interledger protocol to explore the ways Mojo Loop can support pro-poor payment systems. Then it goes on to mention from here, Mojo Loop is open source mobile payment platform. Okay. Servicing the unbanked, just like Stellar. All right. What else do we got? Well, as we go over here, it talks about this, and I'll put it up on the other screen, make it bigger, that African countries via Mawali have a joint venture between Telecoms Orange and MTN, but central banks, financial services, and technology companies such as Google, Coil, and Ripple, and philanthropy such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. As we know, Rockefeller has a direct thing going on with Quant. They even hired some people from Rockefeller, right? So Mojo Loop Foundation and its community also has advancements in financial inclusion, shaping international standards and innovations. But like it says, Monetary Authority of Singapore and central bank digital currencies. All right, here's the icing on the cake. Ripple adds China and Hong Kong to list of supported banks. All will use XRP. How long ago was that? That's from August 28th of 2024 from timestabloid.com. And there's multiple other resources. So my thing is this. It is clear, plain as day, that China has chose XRP, XLM, and Quant. And if anything, a good portion of Central Asia and Southeast Asia went with Stellar. But when we talk about that interoperability, that full interoperability, my goodness, Quant definitely stands out in that regard. So I thought I'd bring it to you guys. Let me know what you think, and simply do me a favor if you listen to the entire outline and type in this keyword, and that is SEPA, SEPA, into the comments, and I'll know that you listened to the entire outline. I really appreciate you guys listening to these outlines. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We'll see you on the next one. If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.